Chair, do you mind turning your microphone on?
Thank you. All right, good afternoon, members of the Active Transportation Committee. This meeting is now called to order. For those around the table, please turn on your microphone when speaking. That's great advice. For those participating via Zoom, please state your name when making a comment or asking a question. The MAG public comment process allows members of the public to comment on items that fall under MAG's jurisdiction. If you would like to comment at today's meeting, please complete the request to speak form. MAG staff can assist with any questions you may have. If you parked in the garage, a validation stamp is available on the corner. If you purchased a transit ticket to come to the meeting, please see staff for a ticket. Hearing assisted devices are available from MAG staff. We will now begin the meeting with a roll call of all members.
Thank you, Chair. I'll begin with Kelsey Shatnick.
Here.
Thank you. Elaine Marielle. Tiffany Halperin. Ward Stanford. Anissa Gerard.
Here.
Thank you. Hezekias Roja.
Here.
Thank you. Earl Ratledge.
Here.
Thank you. Jose Macias.
Present.
Thank you. Lindsay Randall, proxy for Andy Smith.
Here.
Thank you. Justin Weldy.
Present.
Thank you. Stephanie Bubenheim.
Here.
Thank you. Wayne Smith.
Here.
Thank you. Randy Prote.
Here.
Reed Kempton. Garrett Topham.
Here.
Thank you. Amy Rebinar. John Beltrain.
Here.
Thank you. Tara Harmon.
Good morning, present.
Thank you. Les Johnson.
Present.
Thank you. Susan Conklu.
Here.
Thank you. Stephen Shang.
This is John Futch and joining for Stevens while he's out.
Thank you. Give me one moment while I write your name down. Chase Wallman.
Here.
Thank you. Gabe Elias.
Here.
Thank you. Marty Zeke.
Present.
Thank you. Grant Anderson. Vice Chair Sage.
Present.
Thank you. And Chair Brown.
Present.
Are there any members that I have missed or didn't call their name?
Oops.
Ward Stanford with Avondale. I was struggling to get my audio when you called my name, but I'm here.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Chair,
Also,
we do-
Elaine Mera with ADOT, same thing.
Thank you very much. Chair, we do have quorum. You may continue.
All right, thank you. Our next item is call to the audience. This is the opportunity for the public to comment on items that fall under MAG's jurisdiction that are not on the agenda, informal items or items on the agenda for discussion and not for action. 15 minutes will be provided for the call to the audience unless the chair requests an exception to this limit. I have received no request to speak for this call to the audience.
Chair, we received no request to comment or public comment on any other item on the agenda.
All right, thank you. So MAG also provides the opportunity for members of the public to submit written comments via the MAG website. Any comments received 2 hours prior to the meeting have been shared with the committee members in advance of the meeting for consideration and will be included in the formal meeting minutes. Staff, have we received any online written comments for the call to the audience?
Chair, we've received no written online comments.
All right, thank you. And that brings us to item number 3, MAG staff report. This item is on the agenda for information and will be presented by Kay Bork, MAG Transportation Planning Project Manager.
Thank you, Chair and members of the Active Transportation Committee. I have a few updates. The first is an update on the MAG Regional Active Transportation Plan. We held our first technical advisory group meeting in May. Right now, we're finalizing the public outreach and engagement plan based on comments from the TAG and the developing materials. The consultant is right now in the process of conducting an existing conditions and gap analysis. And I will be sending out the next TAG meeting dates based on the doodle poll that everyone filled out. So thank you very much for doing that. The Rio Reimagined Active Transportation Plan, I'll actually be providing an update and a project overview later today in a presentation. And then I wanted to announce some training opportunities at MAG. We have 3 training opportunities in August. These are virtual trainings to introduce the MAG Intersection Safety Tool, or MIST. It's a valley-specific safety analysis tool based on the Highway Safety Manual. MIST will walk users through network screening, diagnosis, countermeasure selection, and economic appraisal. It's currently focused on intersection with plans to include segments in the future. These are 3 identical workshops to be held to help member agencies gain access and become familiar with the tool. You can contact Margaret Herrera, or if you'd like, you can contact me directly and I'll get you in touch with her. And that concludes my update. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. And the MIST tool is very exciting. All right, that brings us to our next item, approval of the March 18th, 2025 meeting minutes. Does any member of the committee have questions? All right, hearing none, prior to the approval of the meeting minutes, there's an opportunity for members of the public to comment.
Chair, we have received no request to comment. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Is there a motion to approve agenda item number 4?
Chair Brown, I will make the motion.
All right, thank you. Vice Chair Sage. All right, is there a second?
I will second Vice Chair Sage's
This is
sound
Stephanie with
recommendation.
Gilbert. I'll second it.
Okay, I heard 2 people. The first person to tell me their name will get to be the second.
Stephanie Bubenheim.
All right, thank you. So we have a motion from Vice Chair Sage, a second from Member Bubenheim. And so now we will have a voice vote. Will those participating in the meeting online take part in a voice vote by turning on their cameras and unmuting their video? We need to see the faces of everyone to participate in the voice vote. For those who cannot or do not want to turn on their cameras, staff will conduct a roll call vote, and staff will only call on those virtual participants who did not turn on their camera. Members, please leave on your cameras until after the roll call vote so that staff can count the people's names whose cameras are not on. Can I have a voice vote of those in the room and those online? Those in favor say aye.
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 Right, thank you. And those opposed say nay. Okay, members, please leave your cameras on, and staff, will you take a roll call of the members participating virtually who did not turn on their camera?
Thank you, Chair. Garrett Topham, how do you vote?
I'm on twice. I said aye.
Oh, I didn't notice that. I appreciate that. My apologies.
Sorry, camera and computer.
Chair, the motion passes.
All right, thank you so much.
Sorry, Elaine, I abstain. You didn't ask that one. Yeah, thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, and so that takes us to agenda item number 5, advancing pedestrian safety in Phoenix, a quantitative framework for leading pedestrian interval deployment. This item is on the agenda for information and discussion. This item will be introduced by Dave Lucas, MAG Intelligent Transportation Systems Program Manager, and will be presented by Dr. Ed Smoglik, Professor and Director of Arizona Transportation at the Northern Arizona University.
Excuse me, Chair. We cannot hear Dave Lucas.
And no sound.
Sorry about that. How about now? Sorry about
Thank
that.
you,
Yes.
Lucas.
Hi, I'm David Lucas. I'm the new Intelligent Transportation Systems Program Manager here at MAG, and it's my pleasure to introduce the speaker for this agenda item. That is Professor Ed Smaglik, who it was mentioned is at AZ Trans Lab at Northern Arizona University. And he's going to be talking about a quantitative framework for LPIs, or leading pedestrian interval deployment, that they did with the city of Phoenix. Professor Smaglik, please take it away.
Thanks, David. Yeah, thanks all for having me on the agenda today. Happy to talk about a project we wrapped up with the city of Phoenix a little less than a year ago now. I think I've got 15 minutes. Can you get a thumbs up on that? So I set my timer right. Okay, 15 minutes. All right, I see y'all. So apologies, the title slide's not updated. I forgot to send an updated slide deck in, but the content is the same. So next slide, please. So many folks know what a leading pedestrian interval is. The idea is simply to provide pedestrians with a head start when before the vehicular indication turns green. So we give the pedestrians typically a 3 to 7 second walk interval prior to the adjacent green movement. This allows them to establish themselves in the crosswalk. This is a proven safety countermeasure, appears in the clearinghouse and all that good stuff. So we see a reduction in PED turning vehicle conflicts when these are implemented. Next slide, please. All right. Here's just a simple example of one being implemented. I'm not sure where this act looks like Tampa Bay based upon my link. But as you can see, the walk indication is on, but yet the vehicular indications are still red. Right, so this is just commonly how it's implemented. Next slide, please. So the motivation for this project came from really the desire for implementation guidance by the city of Phoenix. There's a number of different agencies have either what we call prescriptive or descriptive guidance out there based upon perhaps maybe there's data to collect it and that tells you yes or no, we should do it, or there's a flow chart of some sort where you kind of look at site characteristics and maybe complaints and crashes and then determine whether or not something is recommended, right? So we worked through, this is part of a bigger project. We worked through a lit review looking at what was out there. We did a crash analysis to help us identify sites for data collection. We did data collection before and after implementation of an LPI. We then reduced that data to get an understanding of the behavior changes that we might have seen from that, and then we developed guidelines. And I'll briefly walk through those steps in this presentation today. Next slide, please. Right. So as I noted, we did an identification of pedestrian turning vehicle crashes from 2016 to 2022 across the Phoenix metro area. And we identified really 3 different tiers from highest to lowest crash frequency. And we used the intersections with the highest number of crashes as kind of a springboard for our data collection. Next slide, please. Right, so for each of those intersections, the city of Phoenix counted volumes for vehicles and pedestrians from noon to 1 and 5 to 6. And we identified pretty much the activity that we might see as far as conflicts. So you may be familiar with the cross product that's used in traffic engineering when looking at perhaps a warrant for a left turn implementation. We did something similar. We looked at the number of pedestrians in a crosswalk as well as the number of vehicles crossing that crosswalk in those hours and multiply those together because we wanted to make sure that wherever we were going to use the resources for data collection and data reduction that we had activity, right? Next slide, please. Right, so we sorted through the different intersections that we did this data collection at. We identified 8 different approaches where we would collect data. We didn't want any more than 2 crosswalks at one intersection because you'll see that some of the intersections have more than 2 crosswalks that are in this gray area. The gray area is what the sites we actually used. And then we also kept 2 legs at Washington and 3rd Street because they were very high PED volumes as well as it was agency preference. Next slide, please. So here are aerials of those 4 locations. We refer to each crosswalk as a site in this work. Next slide, please. Right, so for our video data collection, we avoided summertime for obvious reasons, right? So our before data collection was in the fall of 2023, and then our after phase was in late winter or early spring of 2024, right? We installed, or City of Phoenix installed, new traffic pattern ahead signs with the LPI, so folks that would be aware that something had changed. We collected data from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m., and that's a very royal we. Thank you to Ron and his crew at the City of Phoenix for collecting the videos for us. That resulted in a total of 160 hours of video collected. 8 sites times 2 treatments right before and after is times 10 is 160 hours. We went with the 5-second LPI for this. That was middle of the road in the literature, and just through discussions with the City of Phoenix, that's what we settled upon for this. Next slide, please. So to identify changes in behavior, we used a surrogate safety measure. In this case, it was post-encroachment time, which is really looking at the temporal proximity of 2 road users occupying the same space. So if we look on the left side of the figure, we see we've got a hatched conflict zone, right? From the time that we'll say Unit 1 leaves that zone until Unit 2 occupies that zone, that is our PET value, our post-encroachment time, right? The idea being that the smaller PET value, the more severe conflict it is, with a longer PET value, meaning that there was a larger separation and not as severe, right? Next slide, please. So here's an example interaction. If you want to click on the video, it should play. There we go. Right, so we see the pedestrian walking towards the camera in the crosswalk right in front of the Nissan. The Nissan goes ahead and pulls away, right? And so, that if you go to the next slide, please, we can see how we pulled information out of that. So the conflict block is that shared space that's in front of the left front bumper, right? So the students that watched this video logged all sorts of different things. They logged the ped and vehicle speed, the ped and vehicle volume, direction, who got there first, all those different things. So, this is a PET value of 1.2, and as you'll see in successive slides, we would categorize that as a severe conflict because the PET value was fairly low. However, because of the speed, not all conflicts are the same, right? Because the vehicle is moving very slowly, and there was obviously identification of that shared space. Next slide, please. So looking at before and after, the blue items are the number of conflicts before, and orange is number of conflicts after. We see fewer conflicts after, and we also see a reduction in high severity conflicts. That's that PET value of less than 1.5 seconds, and an increase in lower severity conflicts, right? Next slide, please. We pulled some other information out of this. We also looked at vehicle and pedestrian speed. We looked at whether the conflicts were with a left or a right turning vehicle, as well as who was the first unit there. All right, so we'll think back to that PET slide of Unit 1 versus Unit 2. Was the pedestrian the first unit or the vehicle the first unit there? Next slide, please. Right. So I mentioned speed. We further categorized the conflict severity with speed. So looking at whether it was a high speed or a low speed vehicle that was involved in the conflict, and high speed just simply meaning that the speed of the vehicle was higher than the average speed for all the vehicles. I think that was like 11.8 miles per hour or something like that from 2 slides ago, right? Again, Category 1 is the most severe. That's a lower PET with high vehicle speed. Category 2 is a lower PET with lower vehicle speed, right? So you see a similar distribution in that. Right. Next slide, please. So some other factors that were collected, and then these were all fed into some modeling that was led by Dr. Russo up here at NAU. Violations, distractions, crosswalk violations, evasive actions, number of PEDs. We attempted to ascertain gender and age. Again, it's from the camera view you saw, so those are reasonable guesses at best, as well as did folks have a mobility device, so perhaps a wheelchair or a scooter, a one wheel, any of the myriad of things you see out there on the street right now. Next slide, please. So we ran a series of negative binomial models and looked at all reduced conflicts, high severity conflicts, and then high severity, high speed conflicts, with the idea of trying to identify what is the expected number of conflicts the expected amount of conflict reduction we would see with the implementation of an LPI. Right. So we looked at a number of different combinations, also kind of keeping an eye to what is reasonable for the city to collect data for analysis, because they're going to have to plug these numbers into some sort of a methodology to get an answer. So we didn't want something that was like the number of pedestrians that crossed after sunset at the first Saturday in June. Right. We wanted something that was very easy and common to collect. So next slide, please. You see this is the only equation in this presentation, so you're welcome for that. Right, so you see on the left side of the plot, we've got two plots here, and what we're looking at from left to right is the differences in predicted conflicts of less than 1.5 seconds. So the severe conflicts based upon hourly crossing ped volume and turning vehicle volume. Right, so each of those trace lines that you see on the plot, if we start with the left plot, each of those trace lines equates to a number of turning vehicle volume amount, and you can see those on the legend down below. And once we get past about 50 pedestrians, that's on the x-axis, we start to see those numbers, especially with the higher turning vehicle volumes. We see those number of conflicts really increase. Correspondingly, if we look to the plot on the right, that is with the LPI, right? So we looked at the behavior before and after and ran that model, and that is what we would expect to see afterwards. So again, this is hourly. This is based on the peak hour volume, based upon the 10 hours that was collected. So if you start to kind of do a little of calculation, you expect to see hundreds and thousands of conflicts removed based upon this LPI. Next slide, please. Right. So here's a quick summary of the conflict analysis. An ordered logit model also confirmed the significant reduction. I won't talk too much more on this. I've only got a few minutes left. Let's go to the next slide, please. So here you see a high-level overview of the guidance that we provided to the city of Phoenix. Next slide, please. First part of this is data collection. So there's a number of items you'll see where the city is asked to provide or will need to provide data. So we're looking for the number of crashes. We need pedestrian and turning vehicle volume, right? That is directly from those plots I just showed you, where we use that information. Then there's also geometric items. Is it a one-way street? Is there a T intersection? How close are you to a school and transit stop distance? Is there a set obstruction? And then what change can we expect in the vehicular level of service based upon implementation of an LPI? Next slide, please. There we go. So what we came up with was a worksheet for Phoenix to work through, so there's scores that are applied to each one of those factors, and again, these are either based upon directly from our research, which is that's actually on the next slide. Don't go there yet. That's the pedestrian volumes and the turning vehicle volumes, or it's from other published works where other folks were using something similar in their work. Next slide, please. Right, so the prior slide was intersection level. This is then crosswalk level assessment, and we go through, and the maximum score that can be picked up for a crosswalk is 15. If you go to the next slide. Right, so crosswalks need to be evaluated in pairs, and reason being is that you want to implement LPIs in pairs, if not across the entire intersection when you do that. For users that are dependent upon an APS device for the audible prompts, you want to make sure that those are consistent at all four corners when they're hearing those. So that's why we went down this pairwise methodology here. And so what we're doing is just summing showing up the scores for individual crosswalks, and in the matrix on the lower part of the screen, you can see whether we would say an LPI is optional, considered, or recommended. And those are all wiggle words of varying aggression for telling you whether or not you should do this, simply because an LPI does reduce conflicts. So it's going to be helpful wherever it can be implemented, but there are realities of it. Is perhaps the equipment's not up to snuff at the intersection. It can't handle this. You should ideally be putting in APS devices. If you go to the next slide, right? There's a laundry list, a wall of text, as my students would call this, right? Of all the various things that you want to be thinking about and considering when you're doing an LPI, right? Just to make sure that you're kind of following the best practices of those that have been doing this for a while. So, with that, that brings me to the end of my 15 minutes. I think the next slide is for questions. Well, I guess we have limitations. Quickly, limitations. Our crash analysis was done at the intersection level, not at individual crosswalks, and we did not have pedestrian volumes. And for the conflict analysis, it was manual data reduction, so there's going to be some errors, regardless of how careful you are with that. We also had to identify we had to identify indications from visual because we were not able to get signal performance measure data from the city for a variety of reasons. So that was also another possible route of error. So and then now that's it. Questions, please. All right.
Thank you. That was really, really informative. Do any members have any questions or comments?
Chair Justin Weldy has his hand raised.
All right. Member Welty.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for the opportunity. For the intersections selected and the analysis, was there any reduction in the PED timing on the backside as opposed, since you added some on the front? So my question is a little bit complicated. PED phasing is historically the longest phase in traffic signals opposite a crossing or a grade crossing for rail. So having said that, adding 5 or 6 seconds to that PED phase will have an impact on the level of service. Was that considered at any of these locations?
So Phoenix did the math as far as how they would change their timing plans to implement these for this before and after study. I believe that they simply added simply held the green, the onset of green for 5 seconds, and there was a little bit of a shorter vehicular green interval for it. So I don't believe they changed the duration of the PED clear or the duration of the walk, but I could be mistaken. I'm sorry, I just don't have that offhand.
Thank you.
You're correct. You're correct. It certainly does implement, and that's one of the reasons that you want to make sure you use APS devices for this, because if you don't use APS devices when this is implemented, then those that are reliant upon those still cannot start crossing until they hear the vehicles concurrently. So.
Great. Thank you for that question. Are there any other questions or comments from the committee members?
Chair, I don't see any hands raised online.
All right. Well, thank you so much. And thank you again, Ed, for this presentation. It was really valuable.
No problem. I'm happy to do so. All the publications that came out of this are listed on this page here. The bottom one has the full report. There's other cool stuff in the full report. We did a test of the field of strength of no-touch push buttons. That's in there as well. And we also looked at some conditions for implementing a barn stance or pedestrian scramble. So it's a lot of good stuff in there. Thanks again, all, for the opportunity.
All right. Thank you so much.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. That brings us to item number 6. This item is on the agenda for information and discussion and will be presented by Justice Baruman, Transportation Planner.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, members of the Active Transportation Committee. My name is Justice Bruman. I'm a transportation planner here at MAG, and today I'll be providing an informational update on the Design Assistance Program, specifically that we'll be introducing an upcoming evaluation of the Design Assistance Program and asking for your input as we shape its direction. So since 1996, MAG's Design Assistance Program has provided member agencies with funding through a competitive call for projects to develop an early stage design concepts for bicycle and pedestrian projects. These are commonly referred to as 15% plans, and they help jurisdictions assess feasibility, develop cost estimates, and prepare for implementation. The program is outlined in detail in the Fiscal 25 Design Assistance Program Guidebook, which defines the program's purpose as supporting projects that improve, expand, and contribute to an interconnected active transportation network across the region. To achieve this goal, projects are more competitive if they advance the vision established in the MAG Active Transportation Plan, which calls for a system of complete corridors and regional conduits that serve people of all ages and abilities. MAG's going to be conducting an evaluation of the Design Assistance Program to better understand how effectively it is supporting the development of high-quality, locally driven active transportation projects. And the purpose of this evaluation is to assess how well the program is meeting its intent, as I discussed before. This includes understanding what types of projects have received assistance, how these projects have progressed over time, and where the program has been most impactful. The review will take a closer look at how consistently the program has been used across the region, the scales of these projects, and the extent to which the program is supporting member agencies in advancing active transportation investments. Additionally, we aim to identify areas in the application process, scoring criteria, and program support that may benefit from more responsiveness and alignment with the needs of our member agencies. The goal is not only to document what the program has accomplished, but also to position it for continued success in the future. MAG's taking this opportunity to reflect on what's working and where the gaps exist so we can continue to provide value to agencies regarding their active transportation goals. As we move forward with the review of the program, your experiences can provide us with the important context surrounding what kind of support has been most valuable during past cycles, what challenges your agency has encountered in the application or design process, and what elements of the program may need clarification or adjustment. This slide illustrates how your input fits into a broader process, and at the foundation, your lived experiences help ground that evaluation and what agencies actually need from this program. That informs how the program might need to be refined or strengthened. And finally, that feedback helps MAG focus the evaluation itself to ensure we're asking the right questions and prioritizing the most relevant areas of our study. In terms of next steps, MAG will engage a consultant to support this work through a 6-month study, and your input today will help guide how we move forward with this effort. Now, I do want to add that the intention is to meaningfully engage the active transportation membership when we're further into the study, where we can provide some preliminary findings, some more context, and have a much deeper discussion. And that'll happen, most likely midway through the study. Chair, that concludes my presentation, and this item is on the agenda for information and discussion, and I'm happy to take any questions you or the membership may have.
All right, thank you so much, Justice. Do any members have any questions or comments? All right, hearing none, we'll move on to item number 7, the Rio Reimagined Active Transportation Study Update. This item is on the agenda for information and discussion and will be presented by Kay Bork, Transportation Planning Project Manager.
Thank you, Chair, members of the Active Transportation Committee. I'm really glad to be here today to share some information and an update on where we are with the Rio Reimagined Active Transportation Study. So the purpose of this study is to create a unified vision for a regional multi-use path that connects communities along the Rio Salado and Gila River corridors. This study is about supporting the transportation, recreation, environmental, and economic goals and vision for the Rio Reimagined study area. There are 3 objectives that are guiding this effort. will be leveraging past and current planning and establish a cohesive active transportation vision for a seamless user experience. Our focus is on selecting a preferred river path alignment that meets the needs of diverse communities and enhances connectivity. And finally, we will be establishing a framework that will help guide the development of local projects that align with that shared vision. So before moving on to the project boundary, I'd like to discuss what Rio Reimagined is and how the MEG study relates to that initiative. So Rio Reimagined is a planning initiative that's led by ASU, Arizona State University, to revitalize 55 miles of the Rio Salado and parts of the Gila River corridor. It was launched in 2018 with a statement of intent, and this initiative brought together 6 cities, Maricopa County, Salt River Pima Maricopa Indian Community, Gila River Indian Community, and Salt River Project to collaborate and support projects along the river. And ASU, they serve as the convener of this effort through the Rio Reimagined Advisory Group. And their focus is mainly to restore the river's ecosystem and to promote sustainable economic growth. So ASU recently secured grant funding to begin the first phase of a regional vision planning process, and this effort officially kicked off last month. Meanwhile, the MEG study focuses specifically on active transportation. Sorry, I apologize for that. On active transportation. Basically, we'll be identifying a preferred river path alignment and improving connectivity. So if you look at it, the MEG study is really just kind of one chapter in the larger Rio Reimagined visioning process. So this map shows both the MEG study area boundary in purple and the Rio Reimagined project boundary in green. As you can see, the MEG boundary encompasses a very large footprint. It's covering about 90 miles in length and about 2 to 3 miles in width, running from Stewart Mountain Dam to the east and Gillespie Dam to the west. So the study area follows the Rio Salado, parts of the Gila River corridors, including the 6 cities, unincorporated areas of Maricopa County, and 3 Native nations. The MEG study area was expanded beyond the Rio Reimagined boundary because the river changes in width and character along the entire corridor. So looking at a wider area will help us identify opportunities to link neighborhoods, parks, and other activity centers and destinations to the river in more meaningful ways. So these images really illustrate the scale and diversity in landscape and urbanization within the study corridor. The photo to the right, obviously, is Tempe Town Lake. And in contrast to that is the photo on the left, looking west towards Buckeye. So these varying landscapes and types of existing and planned development will likely result in distinct active transportation requirements for each segment along the river, supporting those long-range visions for each jurisdiction, whether that's through ecotourism, mixed-use development, or habitat restoration, while also advancing the shared vision for the regional trail. So the MEG launched the Rio Reimagined Active Transportation Study in response to strong interest from member agencies and our regional partners. This interest was shaped by feedback that was gathered through the MEG Urban Waters Ambassador and conversations with the Rio Reimagined Advisory Group. From those discussions, a clear vision emerged, and that was the desire for a regional river trail connecting communities along the river corridor. So MAG, as the region's planning agency, saw an opportunity to lead and initiate the study as a catalyst project. And with strong support from member agencies, the study was approved and funded by MAG Regional Council in 2024. So a key part of this study is our stakeholder advisory group made up of staff from MAG member agencies, including several members on the Active Transportation Committee and ASU Rio Reimagined staff. So over the next 18 months, this group will meet regularly to guide the study, shaping tasks, reviewing deliverables, and offering critical insights and feedback. And as you can see, this group brings a diverse expertise from transportation and planning to parks and recreation, ensuring a holistic and connected vision. So this study process is an 18-month study process. It began in March of 2025 and will conclude in August of 2026 with a final plan for our regional council's acceptance. So the project tasks that are highlighted in green are where we are today. We held our first stakeholder advisory group meeting in April, And we're currently in the community engagement and existing conditions phase of the plan, where we're gathering community input and studying the corridor's current conditions. I do want to point out that community engagement will happen throughout the study process. It's just listed here as this is when it officially kicked off. Next, we'll be moving on to vision, goals, and objectives. So we'll be using what we've learned through community engagement and existing conditions, where we'll shape a clear vision with shared goals and objectives. From there, we'll explore where and how trails and active transportation can align along the river corridor and link communities and destinations. And then, apologies. And then moving on to implementation strategies. This is where the vision actually becomes action, where we'll be identifying strategies, partners, and resources to move projects forward. And finally, all this work will come together in a final plan for regional council acceptance. We hope this document will serve as a blueprint for future planning, funding, and project development efforts. So as I mentioned, we're just in the beginning stages of community engagement, and the interactive website, magrioactive.com, is now live and it's taking comments. We're working with our communications team to work with each member agency's public information officer to kind of launch this through social media. That's happening this week, and I'll be notifying all the technical or stakeholder advisory group members of that process. And so you're aware of that and can help promote those efforts. Also, you can get project updates if you'd like on the MAG website. There's a short, if you just go to azmag.gov/Rio, there's a project website and you can sign up for notifications if you are not on the technical advisory committee. And that concludes my presentation. Happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you, Kay. Do any members have any questions or comments?
Chair Randy Protes has his hand raised.
All right, thank you. Member Approach, you're welcome to speak.
Thank you. And I couldn't find the raise hand for justice on the previous item, but I'll save that for the end, I guess. Okay, is this considering when the project kicked off, I've been hearing about this for a long time now. Is this the first attempt in an active transportation plan?
I'm sorry, can you repeat your question, Randy? I could not hear you very well.
Is this the first time that we're doing an active transportation plan, though the project kind of kicked off 7 years ago?
So this is a separate project from the active transportation plan. This is specifically for the Rio Reimagined corridor. Does that answer your question?
No, I'm sorry. I meant as far as when Rio Reimagined kicked off, and you said 2018. Is this the first attempt at looking at active transportation in the past 7 years?
I would say yes. This is like the first formal process of looking at active transportation. So the Rio Reimagined partners do meet through ASU, and it's more of a project update, an opportunity to collaborate and coordinate with each other on perhaps some specific active transportation projects within the corridor. But this is the first time we're looking at this as a regional wide trail.
I don't mean to sound facetious about it, but is there a reason why it took 7 years to get to the point of, celebrating the river through getting people to the river?
I can't answer why it took 7 years, but at the time when the project was kind of brought forth to regional council, there was a lot of interest and there was a lot of support. So Meg had the ability to fund this study and took the initiative to do that.
Well, thank you for funding it. If you needed money, you could have just said so. I'd be happy to help.
Okay, thank you. Please sign up.
Chair Hezekias Roja also has his hand raised.
All right, thank you. Member Rojas, please, or Roja, please speak.
Thank you, Chair Brown. Kay, received some messages of the website and I loved the community engagement that you have on the Rio Active website. You mentioned some community engagement. I know that the city of Phoenix has done a lot of open houses and public meetings. Is MAG also planning on having the in-person part on the community engagement too, or is it going to be mostly through virtual means?
Thank you very much for that question. Yeah, MAG is actually initiating several opportunities for community engagement, both virtually and in person. So our stakeholder advisory group has reviewed a community engagement plan that includes some in-person events like workshops, pop-up events. We'll be piggybacking onto existing community events. And so we've identified some opportunities with each of the stakeholder member agencies where we can do that. And then, of course, we're going to be launching a lot of virtual opportunities as well, which includes the interactive website. We'll also have virtual open houses. So we'll be launching those throughout the study process, kind of before those key milestones. And we'll be putting those out on the MAG website, as well as getting those out through social media and each of the member agencies' public information officers.
Thank you.
Hey, thank you so much. Are there any more questions or comments? And just so you all know, I can't see if you raise your hand.
This is Earl Rattler with the Coalition of Arizona Bicyclists. I just wanted to give a comment that whoever developed the tool that you can use where you can look at the map and draw your suggestions on there did a great job. I found it to be easy to use and very intuitive.
Thank you. Thank you for that comment. I will pass that along to our consultants. It is a very well-designed website, and I'm really, really happy with it.
All right, thank you. Well, before we wrap it up, I want to make the comment that this is just a very exciting plan. I'm really excited that we are going forward with it. And all of the, or most of the agencies that are along the Rio Salado have been working on active transportation along its banks. And so this is really a great opportunity to connect those efforts and really tie it into a much larger regional vision. So thank you to MAG. Right, and that's it. So are there any requests, which brings us to item number 8, requests for the future agenda items. So are there any requests from the membership for an item on a future agenda? Right, Justice is saying there are no hands raised. So hearing none, the next agenda item is comments from the committee. Are there any comments or announcements from the membership?
Chair Randy Proch has raised his hand.
All right, Member Proch.
Yeah, just to go back to I missed an opportunity to find the raised hand for Justice's presentation. I just hope, I think anyone else in the committee would emphasize that, considering, the proposition was passed and we have the RSTIP now, design assistance is one of the most crucial things and best opportunities we have to make some of these things possible that would not otherwise be funded through any sort of CIP effort. So please don't change it or take it away from me.
Chair, members, I hear your feedback. I want to quell any nervousness by saying this is just an evaluation study to see how we can better suit the agency's needs in the future with the implementation of Proposition 479, and that this is being completed alongside the update to the active transportation plan, where this evaluation study would directly inform some of the funding recommendations as part of that.
All right, thank you so much.
Chair Marty Zeke has his hand raised.
Oh, Member Zeke, please speak.
Hi. Thank you. So I just want to thank the City of Phoenix for working with Valley Metro on a great opening of the South Central extension earlier this month. I encourage everybody on the committee to check it out, ride the system, and there is a stop right at Rio Salado at the Audubon Center at Central and Pioneer.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you for that comment. And it's so exciting to see the trains running. Unfortunately, I was out of town for the opening celebration, but I was thrilled to see 2 trains on my way here. It was just amazing to see all of the vibrancy of that new area and just the transit. So thank you. All right. If there are no further comments or questions from the committee, this adjourns the meeting. And the next meeting of the Active Transportation Committee will be on Tuesday, August 19th, 2025 at 1 p.m. So with no further business, today's meeting is adjourned.